Hey guys out there in Facebook land, it is Jim Johnson here with another episode of Contractor Radio, and just thought I would take a few minutes here to kind of catch you guys up to speed on what we're up to and what we're all about. We had a special guest planned for today. It looks like he's trying to log in, and I'm not understanding what may be going on with that, so we're going to give him a second here. Just be patient with us, get joined in, throw some comments in there. What's happening great for you today? And let's see if I can get him in here. See if I can try to invite him again. One more second. You guys be patient with us because it's going to be a good one today. We got Danny Kerr from Breakthrough Academy on, and we will try to get him on here. Sent him a new link. We'll see how it goes. This is a little unusual. Usually we're on and no problem. It looks like he might have been running late to try and hop on. Usually we get on about 10 or 15 minutes early to handle that. And so I'll give him a second. Hey, there we go. There's our man. So before I bring Danny in, I'll just kind of do a quick restart here and get everybody up to speed on what's going on. So here we go. Hey everybody, it's Jim Johnson here, the head coach at Contractor Coach Pro with another episode of Contractor Radio. And this is an episode that I'm super excited for a multitude of reasons. One is because I have a lot of respect for the gentleman that's going to be on with us today. The other is a concept that we're going to be talking about today that a lot of people in an industry are a little bit unnerved to talk about, and that's working with your competition. We're also going to talk a little bit about leadership. He knows quite a bit about that. And one of the reasons that I'm bringing them on, they're like a direct competitor to us. We do very similar things, but we both have respect for each other, and it has a lot to do with the fact that our morals and our core values align quite well, and we're both here to do the same thing, which is hopefully to make this contracting thing a little bit easier on you guys as contractors. So without further ado, let's bring on the contractor savant, the incredible Danny Kerr.
Mr. Jim.
What's happening there? How you
I made it. I figured it out.
I figured they just said, hey, you know what? We're not going to let these guys from Canada in. They just can't cross the border on that internet.
Can't even cross the digital border anymore.
So today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit about leadership first. I think we'll start there. And then we're going to talk about working with our competition. And we are competition. Breakthrough Academy helps a bunch of contractors. Contractor Coach Pro helps a bunch of contractors. And before I get to you a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about the first time we ever met. We were at, I believe, an MRC. IMG, yes. Yeah. And I couldn't remember exactly what event, but I remember what happened there. My lead coach now, Nathan, had gone over to your booth. I had him like strip off all this stuff and go take a look around what was going on. And he met you, and he came back over to me. He goes, you got to meet this Danny Kerr guy. They do what we do or similar, and they got a lot of cool stuff. And he's a cool dude. I think you'll like him. I said, well, let him know. Come by the booth and we'll talk. And you came by the booth at the end of the show, like it was kind of over, and we sat and we talked for like an hour and a half about how we do things and the way we saw things on this coaching and consulting side of things. And we had a lot in common. You had a lot of really cool tools that you were using. I hope you think the same about what we were doing. And we saw some things where each other had different strengths, but we're both trying to get to the same thing. So that was a weird deal to like sit down with somebody that was competitive to us and go, hey, I'll open up my books to you, and you did the same. And it was really like almost surreal. Do you remember that, Danny?
Yeah, man. Oh yeah, of course I do. I was like, I like this guy.
Wow. It's and from there, it's kind of become a relationship. I hope that you consider me a friend. I consider you one. We're both members of the Catalyst Group, so still competitors inside of there. And so I really want to talk about some of that today, this competition thing. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about Breakthrough Academy and how you guys got to where you are, and kind of a little bit of your story for those out there that may not have heard.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was 18, I think I was in university to be a police officer, and I was not super loving the university vibe. I'm actually super dyslexic, like literally I'm dyslexic. So I've always struggled with reading and writing. And I saw this sign that said, run your own business, college pro painters. It's like a painting business. And I was like, that sounds like an interesting way to make money. So I applied, and for about 10 years of my life, I ended up running a franchise, working for corporates, oversaw Western Canada, and ran franchises in the painting space, the contracting space. And when I left, I was like, there's got to be a way to do this without the franchise. I saw so many young people learn very quickly how to run a business, ramp up really fast, make lots of money, in between their university years. And I was like, these franchise systems are amazing, but they're locked up in franchises. I was like, wouldn't it be cool to create a business program or business coaching program, I guess you'd call it, that is a franchise without the franchise? So that's where the idea originally came from. And one of my really good friends, Igor, who was also with College Pro, another really good friend who was actually my boss for a lot of years, James Dale, got together. And in 2015, we launched Breakthrough Academy. And it was mostly to our friend network. We knew a lot of contractors that needed help, and treated them like they were our franchisees, gave them all the systems coaching, built system, templates for them to utilize every 2 weeks, held them accountable to their goals, tracked their financials. And we watched as they started to grow quite a bit, and really had the same success as an internal franchisee had with us. And we're like, this is cool. Like, we could scale this. And instead of selling franchises across North America, we can just bring people in who already have a business, and away we go. And one of the biggest things when you run a franchise company that you start to run out of over time is turf. You don't have more space. You sell all your space. Actually, one in Hunter Got Junk, who's a good friend of ours, Brian Scudamore, ran out of turf to sell. So he went from junk removal to painting to they sell a moving service. And then they actually bought my business partner's one business, a window cleaning business. But the only way that they could expand was by geography. So we were like, well, we have unlimited geography because we don't have a turf. Everybody kind of works together. And we're going to talk a little bit about this idea of working with your competitor, but it's something right from the beginning of BTA starting. I said, look, if you're going to come in, you have to be comfortable knowing you're going to work with other people in your area. And we're not going to bring in everybody and their dog. We will screen who actually comes in, but you're going to work with good people, and you're going to be needing to be willing to be open book with them. And that mentality started right from day one. So now we've got 315 contractors, and together they're doing almost $1 billion in revenue. So it's really cool to see the influence they have, and they're all working together, and they're all helping each other, and they're all collaborating. And for a lot of people, that makes them feel pretty uncomfortable. And for them, they've seen the benefits long-term, and it's a big part of what we do now. So
that's super cool, because we had the same attitude. Like, we weren't going to be this exclusive thing, but we weren't going to let just anybody in. As a matter of fact, we probably talked to 10 contractors and take on about 2. Yep. Not everybody qualifies, I guess, is the best way to look at that. And the big thing for us was the leadership side of things. Like, you had to have and we didn't get that early on. You think I would know that stuff. Like, you have to have a good leader for everything else to go well. But we were really concentrating on culture and accountability and that kind of stuff, and those processes and systems. And what we found is that the leader was the linchpin. Did they have the skill? Did they have the ability, capacity to take their business where they really wanted it to go? And we've gotten a lot more about that. Like, that's our barrier of entry, is you got to have the skill. If you don't have the skill, be willing to go through learning that skill before you can get into the actual coaching part of it. And so we believe a lot like you, like, hey, we're going to be in this thing together. You may have a competitor or 2 or 3 or maybe even 5 in your market, depending on the size of that market. But it's such a small percentage in the big scheme of things. It's not like we're going to coach everybody, right? And it's not like you're going to coach everybody. And so, I think it was a little tough to swallow at first, but now people get it and they see the value of it, and it's been really cool. So let's talk about that a little bit. This Sure. leadership, like, you're leading your business, right? I'm sitting here leading mine. At least I think I am. And how's that been for you? Like, were you a leader and had that kind of stuff? I know the college pro thing, but were you on this magnitude?
I'm a little interesting. So I've noticed I've got very strong skills in certain things and very weak actually in other things. And I actually lean on, I have two business partners as well, and I lean on them to be kind of completing me as a full leader of this organization. I think where I strive is I'm very visionary and I've got a lot of ideas and I'm a very good problem solver and I'm very compassionate. I'm passionate and compassionate about the people I work with. And so that draws in a lot of our members, and I think that draws in the people with a certain value set. And I have a lot of purpose behind what I do, and I think people really believe in that as well. When I look at managing our staff internally, like we have 25 people on our team now, I'm not a good manager of our team. It's funny, but I'm not. Like I've got certain people on our team that are very independent, they're very entrepreneurial in their own way, and it works pretty well. But when I look at like the structural side of even what we teach, it's funny, I'm not the engineer, I'm the dreamer, right? And my business partner, Igor, is much more the engineer of our organization and really drives and leads the team internally. And I think it's been very humbling for me to know and see the evolution of business and how as an owner, you don't need to always be everything to everybody, to know when to step out of the way enough to let other people thrive. And, in the beginning, it was all me driving everything. I was the engine that would never give up. And now I'm watching as we're growing to this next stage, and it's not so much about new ideas anymore. It's not so much about grit and hard work. It's about strategically managing what exists and making really good strategic decisions and motivating our team to go execute. And if I look at it, I'm like, Igor, you're better built for that. And I will step back and I will kind of let you drive the next stage of our organization and build in long-term sustainable systems for what we do. So I get along really well with our members because it's funny, I resonate with them quite a bit, and I am them in a lot of ways. And I say, look, you need an engineer in your life, just like I do too, and be humble about that, and you will grow much larger than you ever would alone. So, yeah.
Yeah, very similar thing here. I was the end all and be all for quite some time. Wasn't really sure if I really wanted to scale this thing. That's not what I got into it for. It was kind of almost a hobby, to be honest with you. I was kind of done and just help a few people out, and people got the word, and we were doing pretty good with it. And I started coaching like 20 people, which is 20 meetings. Like we do one-on-one stuff. I know you guys do a little bit more group stuff. And 20 one-hour meetings with 3 hours or so of work per each one. You can add up those hours pretty quick. And there wasn't much time for anything else. And so we brought Nathan in. And Nathan has really kind of grown into that. I think you use the word implementer, and I use the word integrator. We have a very similar view on leadership with this. I think yours is dreamer, implementer, and specialist, and mine is visionary, integrator, and champion. And totally. So it's very, very similar thought process that have the same types of skill sets. That was pretty cool. Like working with your competition. You're like, hey, yeah, man, I would love to help you out with that thing and be on a show and stuff. I'll send you over some information on what I did. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like, who does that? Somebody goes, hey, here's one of my presentations. Yeah. And I got a chance to look at it. There was a lot of places where we were really aligned, and that was one of them. And so Igor, for you, is that implementer, right? Like he's the one that takes all your bright ideas and says, hey, well, those are actually, some of them are pretty good. We might actually use them.
Yeah, these 70 are crap, but these two are actually really good. So why don't we use these two? Yeah, and same with our coaches. Like our coaches, their backgrounds are project engineers, people who have built large organizations at scale and done it from a very technical standpoint. And again, like I look up to them in a lot of ways. I'm like, I do not pretend to try and be as good as you in that area of business, and vice versa with them. They're like, Danny, thank God someone's here to kind of be the heartbeat of everything we do, because they're so rigid and linear in how they pursue things. They sometimes miss, big harebrained ideas that I kind of have, but it's good. It's like, it's just a good teamwork way of looking at the business. And somebody else taught me this years ago, but I saw a graph that showed when you go from like 0 to 5, employees, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 50. And right when you get to this like 20 to 50 range, you have to actually realize like the entrepreneur, like the driver that started the business isn't as important. They actually go from like being 60% of the business down to 10, and the implementer suddenly rises to 60%. And it's during that transitionary phase, you have to be very conscious to get yourself either out of the equation, or if you are naturally gifted in those areas, to really start to push into that side of the business. So, yeah.
I've been really fortunate to go through that multiple times, from small situations to much larger. In the health club stuff, there was maybe I don't know, 10, 15 people, and it grew to a little over 1,000.
Yeah.
And then with my contracting business, it was just like five of us that started it. And then we had at one point in just salespeople, 170 salespeople. And so you're right. Like, and there's this part of almost relief. I don't know about for you, but there was a bit of relief with it. Like, you're carrying everything on your shoulders. You're trying to be good at all of it. You know that a lot of it you're not good at. You're just kind of wading through it, and then you start to find the right people. Those right people start to come into your life. They start to work for you. They start to grow. You start to give them some empowerment and enablement to go and do some things. And you're like, hey, that guy's got some talent. And that's really what Nathan has turned out to be for us, as far as not only a great coach. Like, I actually look at him and go, he's a better coach than I am now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's more rigid than I am. He holds people accountable probably better than I do. He understands our system and process even better than I do, and has had a lot of input into it. And I tell people all the time, like, you should work with Nathan. He's like a better coach, like, for what you need, and he'll be able to give you better time. And now we're starting to get some of our champions, like Jenny. Jenny is our finance champion. She is unbelievable rock star on that side of things that I hate. I'll be honest. I hate that side of the business. I don't want anything to do with it. Just make sure everything's paid. And if we got somebody left over, that'd be great. And she has come in and made a massive difference in our business. And that's what we need to do as leaders, is identify. Like, identify who are you in this thing. And so, like, you've identified, and I think a lot of leaders want to be the visionary.
And you don't always have to be, and that's okay too. I find it's a lot of times what gets us in the most hot water is the stubborn pride and ego that we kind of like catch ourselves in a little bit, right? And like, I've had some emotional moments about my business that I'm like, it's growing bigger than me. Like, I don't know how useful I am today. Like, I used to be so useful. And then I kind of started to get over it a bit and realize one of two things. One, this is just one part of my life. I have amazing kids and a wife, and lots of adventure activities I can go spend time doing. And I started to do a bit more of that, actually, especially since COVID. I've got quite a fun summer.
Yeah.
And two, like, this is an organic part of running a business, and actually knowing as a leader when to step back and actually let your people take over is a very mature thing to be able to do. And people sometimes look at it as like, that's the upper echelon. That's what I love to get to one day. I can build a business that doesn't require me. But it like messes with your brain, because you're like, I used to be so like, everyone wanted me and needed me. Now no one wants to talk to me. What's going on? But it's
that's our ego and pride talking.
Yeah, it is.
That is. And we kind of build off of that concept a little bit. We have this leadership personality. It's kind of like almost a dispersonality thing, except it's based on motive. Like, motive is at the top, and that's kind of what motivates you. And you can either be a villain kind of motivated type person, or you can be a hero motivated type person. And then on the bottom two squares of that quadrant, you have the autocratic type leadership, where it's your way or the highway. And then there's the more democratic type of leadership. And people don't fall in like one specific one. It just doesn't work like that. They're usually a combination of a couple, and really have attributes from different pieces of it, but identifying what it is about you that makes you you, because too much of one person is never good. It just isn't good. You usually will have a problem with that in the end. So what's been the most valuable thing in the last couple of years that you've learned about leadership?
I mean, that is definitely a big part of it, is knowing that you don't have to be everything to everybody at all times, and that actually working less and spending more time sharpening your saw can be a lot more long-term important than trying to do it all yourself, and knowing when to transition, because there are different stages in business that require you to grind and do 80-hour work weeks and be the person who does everything. Like, in the beginning, if you don't do a little bit of everything, you're never going to learn truly what your business actually is and where your opportunities actually lie and what it really takes. And you can't lead other people in it because you haven't done it yourself, right? And then there's this transition where it's like, you actually need to slowly step back and give your people more and more ownership of what they're doing and more accountability, and let them do it. And I think just knowing when and how to do that, because it's not an on-off switch. It's not one or the other. It's a blend, and it's a slow, methodical step backwards. And while all that's going on and you're planning that out within your own business, coronavirus happens, or the economy drops, or whatever, right? Like the world is going to do its own buck and bronco thing, and you have to be able to navigate internally in your organization. What's the best decision now? Should I jump back in, right? Or should I continue to just pull back? What combination of those two should I be doing? So my biggest learning as a leader is just how to do that over time. And to be honest, I'm not perfect at it. And I've probably gotten the most out of just working with two other people. I don't own all of BTA. I'm a 1/3 owner of BTA, and having them, we're all 1/3. Having all of three of us totally equal gives all of us a seat at the table in a very equal way, and allows all of us, three of us, to just call each other out on each other's bullshit and be each other's sounding board. And much like we have for our members, where they can collaborate with each other, the three of us as owners really need that for each other and make, I'd say, pretty good sound decisions. We've made a few mistakes like anybody has, but I'd be like raving about one idea, and then they'll be like, that's dumb. Like, we're not doing that. But because there's two of them, I give up on the idea. No matter how much I believe in it, I let the three of us come to a common consensus between us and just let it be. So
yeah, you don't necessarily have to have partners do that. Having people you trust.
Yeah.
I have a couple of those in my own business here. Like, that's a dumb idea. We're not doing that.
Totally. You're like, all right, I'm full of dumb ideas. As long as you can help me find like one or two good ones.
And that is the key. Like, that person that goes, you know what, that is really a good idea. And a lot of that has a bit of like throwing it out there, having a good conversation about it, maybe setting it off to the side, and then bringing that back at the right time in the right place when you have the right people to do it. It's not necessarily that it was a bad idea. It just you didn't have the capacity to do it at that point. Has that ever happened to you guys?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, right now, as we speak, we're dealing with that with a few different circumstances. So, and I believe too, it's at those times, like the toughest times, where you're like having to say no to big opportunities, or you're having to make big financial decisions and adjustments and risks in the company, that I think the one thing that does ground us actually in our decision making is just our values and just being very aligned. And everyone always talks about, you need core values, you need a mission statement, but people don't really understand like where that kicks in. Like, that kicks in when shit gets crazy. And you're like, you know what? Like, when coronavirus happened, we kept every single staff member on payroll, and we didn't take any government assistance. And we did that for a lot of, very like value-driven reasons. Partially, we couldn't get the assistance, so we couldn't apply for it quite right away. But we were wondering, like, if this gets really bad, like, what's our commitment to our team? And our commitment to our team was that we're going to keep them around as long as fiscally it makes sense, obviously, but we're going to ride this wave along with them. And there's one of our values in BTA. It's called embrace the journey, and sticking to those core values while you make really big decisions is another big thing to do. And it's hard to do because we came up with that value 5 years ago, and we didn't know everything it was going to face us with, but it's faced us with some pretty crazy things, and it seems to work out long term, but short term, it's always the harder decision to make, right? So
very similar for everything passes muster according to our purpose, like what we're all about, which ours is helping people believe. I mean, that's what it really comes down to, believing in themselves and us, and hopefully that there's a higher power out there. That's the reason we're doing all this stuff in the first place. And that's really at our core, and everything has to pass that muster, right? Like, is this new thing we're going to do, is that empowering somebody to believe? No, not really. So we're not going to do that. And it also has to pass those core values, and our core values are to love, serve, and care. They're pretty simple. Is that loving our customer? Is that caring for our customer? Is that serving our customer? If it doesn't meet that criteria, it just doesn't get done. And it puts it more towards them than us, which is what we're really after. Is it needs to be about those guys. Zig Ziglar, I think, is the one that said it, that the more people you can help achieve their dreams, he'll achieve his. Same thing here. If we do that, we'll be just fine. So it's cool that you went right to those core values as that thing that was the qualifier, right? Mm-hmm. We did the same thing. We kept all of our people. It was a thing where we talked about it, like, hey, what do we do in this thing? And I'm not the type to give up or any of that kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, all these contractors probably use a bunch of help. So we stepped up and turned our efforts there. And fortunately, in our industry, it hasn't been hit as hard as, I don't know what I'd be doing if I was coaching a bunch of restaurants. Like, what would I do?
Got a big case of whiplash. Yeah. It was like, this is going to be terrible. Never mind. This is actually really good for everybody.
Yeah, those aren't all that bad.
We have a friend who does what we do in restaurants, and we have another one who just started it in hospitality. And it was not the same picture for sure. We're very blessed to be in the industry we're in. So,
Yeah, some of the ideas that came out of this, like we're construction people, we know the trades. Like, what could you do? I always like throw caution on this statement, but I see whenever there's catastrophe, there's always opportunity, right? And so all these people had to go home to work. And they don't have privacy. They don't have any of that kind of stuff. They're trying to figure it out. They're sitting on their bed in their bedroom with a lap stand and stuff like that, trying to be a part of their business. And the field just wasn't the same. I'm like, man, wouldn't it be super cool if we, like, as contractors said, hey, we got this new offering, turn your extra bedroom into an office and provide that type of service where both people benefit. We actually had a couple of contractors take it on, and they're doing really well. It was a good move on their part. So let's talk about working with the competition.
Sure.
Here we are sitting here talking about this stuff, sharing ideas and things like that. And it's so weird. Not for you, because I know this has been.
You got to come to Canada, Jim. We're way more socialist.
The Canada nice thing. I don't know what it is, but here in America, it's like, no, man, we're playing poker all the time, and I might tell you, and I might be bluffing them. And like, you never know when somebody's giving you the right information or not. That changed for me quite a few years ago, about 15 to be exact. But what I found from that, and you tell me if it's any different from you, is those competitors. Now, as a contractor, I had respect for quite a few of my competitors. Also didn't like them that much, but it was only because they were good.
Yeah.
And Cedar Valley, those guys were aggressive, strong, sold a lot, did a lot of business, and I got to know the guy over time, and we actually all started working towards helping each other do better. And Frank Manella, super cool guy, brilliant, just super smart too, great marketer. And he had a talent that I didn't have. And, on my side of things, we kind of had the sales thing, and we really had a process and a system for that. And I found value because we made each other better. And it's happened in various other companies that I've worked with, that it raises the bar, right? Like that bar raises for those ones working together. And the ones that aren't willing to work together, that bar keeps going up higher and higher and higher. And they're trying to figure out how to at least grab hold of it or even jump over it. And there's more power in numbers, especially when they're aligned values-wise, and they bring skills to the table, I guess. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it's exactly. And it actually does. It all starts with values. Like, you can't say, hey, we have 300 companies. You can't say, hey, guys, we're going to have everybody share each other's financials and everybody's deepest secrets, and we'll bring anybody to the party, right? There's a no-go zone if you do that. But by taking the time to understand, hey, all these people are very open-minded. All of them have nothing but the best intentions for the industry, for themselves, for their staff, for their customer. They actually care, right? Like, there's certain things we look for when we bring people in, probably similar to what you look for. And when you start to create a safe space where that's who is all around you, and you trust and know that we're continuing to do that, it's a pretty relieving fact. It's like, well, so everybody thinks the same as me, like, more or less, like, values are fairly aligned. Yeah, cool. I wonder what people make on average on gross profit margins on construction sites in my industry. Well, let me tell you about 10 of them, and let me get you to have a chat with them, or let's get 3 of you in a group together every 2 weeks and go over the fine details of all your financials, right? And suddenly, what used to be a mystery that you would Google online and like try and scrimp and get the bit of information you can to win the next guy, is just public information for a group of people that all help each other. And I seen this the first time when we first started in Vancouver. We had 3 of the top landscaping companies in North Vancouver all working in BTA. And at first I was like, is this weird for you guys? Like, you guys are all bidding against each other. And they said, well, Danny, there's like another 20 landscaping companies around here that aren't honestly that good and have pretty malpractice. And the 3 of us are actually able to like set a precedent in the industry now. Like, we're actually able to hold something that we're more powerful together. And they're like, as long as it's us working together, like, we're pretty comfortable actually. You bring in, XYZ person over there that does nothing but like cheat everybody. Like, we would not be comfortable with that, but they trust in our ability to bring the right people through. So I think having the right core values having people that you work with that have the same core values as you is huge. And I think also realizing that this world, this thing we call business, is much larger than any of us. As much as we're all like, I'm 20 million a year, I'm 30 million a year, we're all pretty small potatoes. We're all pretty small potatoes in the grand scheme of large organizations and large businesses. And there's more work out there than most of us are ever going to be able to grab. And again, stubborn pride and ego, you're like, well, I want to control Texas. It should all be mine. I should own it. It's like, dude, sorry to tell you, it's like, it's a big state. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of money, and you'll always have a competitor that'll be as good, if not better than you. That's okay. You might as well work with them, and together you guys can own something versus trying to do it all alone. So,
yeah, being open to that is so difficult because you think, well, one thing is in our own businesses, we kind of have blinders on, right? Like we think we know it all and we've got this secret thing that nobody else knows about or any of that kind of stuff. There are no secrets out there. It's maybe a different way of doing something and looking at it from a different perspective, but it's not a secret. It's just something you don't know yet that person knows. And I guarantee you got some of that stuff that they want to know in most cases. And when you put that together, this new aura comes in about it. I'll reference a group of folks in Chicago. They're the ones that I noticed the most. Those guys get together. There's a group of contractors, and it's not just like 4 or 5. It's like dozens.
Yeah.
They'll get together. They'll have dinner together. They'll share information back and forth. I'm like, that's super cool.
Yeah.
And you see in the Facebook groups too. Like in Facebook groups, people help each other quite a bit. Now, they won't come out with all of it, but they'll be pretty helpful. And the access to information today has been amazing. And I don't know if you've noticed, like, there's all kinds of new competitors to what you and I do. They're popping up every day. I'm cool with it. Come on. First off, I never think anybody's going to do it as good as we're going to do it. I'm sure you feel that way about BTA, and I feel that way about Contractor Coach Pro. And so bring it on. I'm good with that competition. It actually just makes me better. And so my team, hey, did you see there's this new? Hey, did you see there? I'm like, I'm not worried about that. First off, let's let them be in business for a while, see if they actually do anything, and then let's see if they're aligned. Let's see if they can actually help this industry, because that's what we're all about. Because there's more, there's a million contractors. We can coach them all if we wanted to, just in America. And being, the use of the internet. I mean, we've coached people in Australia, England. It's been really cool to do some of that kind of stuff outside of our nation, which I don't know. I sit here today and I go, man, I can't believe what this thing's turned out to be. You kind of feel that way too?
Totally. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. I can't believe, and just the industry itself is maturing as we're doing this. Like I'm literally, I came in 5 years ago outside of a franchise system, right? So I was internal. I saw what we did there, and then I stepped out and I was like, oh my God, this industry is a mess. Like there's just so much work to do, and I'm watching it get better. Every conference I go to, every time I see new suppliers come in, I see new, like what you're doing with the industry, what some of these other coaches are doing from different angles. It's helping and it's working, and people are like doing better. And like I can take somebody who's had a good experience with another coach and take them to that next stage, or take them down a different route because that coach did sales training or marketing training. But if you have people doing crappy jobs, just like a contractor who has a customer who just dealt with another shitty contractor, it's hard to build that trust. It's hard to get anything done, right? So it's important that if you're in an industry that you work with the best and you help the best be better, and you share and you collaborate, and it'll make your industry more professionalized, and it'll put the pressure on the other guys below you to do a good job as well. But if you stay cards close to your chest, it's always you against the world. Like that's all it's ever going to be, and it's never going to be bigger than that. So
yeah, it's this industry, especially in roofing, but there's a lot of others, painting and concrete work and those types of things. There's not a lot of regulation, right? There's not this. No. It's a self-regulation type of thing, and it all comes down to your morals, values, ethics for you and your business internally. But when you start to see that bar getting raised around you, it has an impact on you. You start thinking, hey, maybe I should change maybe some of the things I'm doing and the way I'm going about doing things. I think social media has done that a lot for just the process itself. It's very transparent now. You can't be too hard of a closer jackass person anymore, because you're going to get blown up on Facebook. And so it's a different tact. It's a different approach nowadays in sales than it was even just 10 years ago. I started doing this 7 years ago, and it's been cool to watch. Like you said, each one of the conferences we go to, the contractors get a little better. They get a little more organized. They get a little more systematic. They get a little more professional. And that's really what it's about for us. Is I would love to say it's all about you guys that are contractors. And really and truly, I would love to say that, but it's not for us, at least. What it is for us is it's about the consumer. That consumer having somebody they can trust to work on their home, perform the project for what they said it was going to be, and deliver what they said they were going to deliver. That's called professionalism. If we can bring professionalism to an unregulated industry through coaching and consulting, we can have an impact, and it has been. It's been cool to see. So, Danny, to this point in your life, what's your greatest achievement? Not including getting married or kids. Like, I think I may have asked you this question.
Yeah, you primed me for this question, so I had to think about it. I was going to be like, getting married and having kids. But you're like, you're not allowed to say that. I was like, all right. So I thought about it, actually. I'll tell you a bit of it's a bit of my life story, but I'll tell you a bit about my life that would probably make sense to this. So I grew up, my mom was on welfare, single mom, raised me. $800 a month was our income. My dad was a drug addict. I'm super dyslexic. I failed grade 4. I had all these like things that, like, if you read about me when I was younger, you'd be like, that kid's going to end up in jail and addicted to drugs for sure. Right. Like that was, I took criminology and sociology and psychology on criminal deviant behavior in school. And I basically learned about myself. It was really weird. I was like, so I'm supposed to be a criminal. And the reason I wasn't was I made a very different choice. Like coming through poverty and drug addiction in the family. And eventually my dad, died from that heroin overdose when I was 14. My mom died from cancer along the way. And it was kind of just me. And I was like, what do I want to do? And I trusted in God, and I trusted in my own just will and determination to work hard towards something, to just do the right thing. And years later, and I'll still sneak in my family a bit, like I'm very proud that I have 3 girls that are like healthy and awesome, and a wife who loves me, and I have my health, and I'm not, losing myself mentally. And I was able to create, and I became a millionaire before 30, which is everyone's dream. But to be honest, it's like the ability to make decisions to do the right thing when there's nothing but chaos around you. And I've had my fair share of loss and tragedy and adversity. And I just remember like God just always being like, you have a choice. Which one do you choose? And I always chose to build into Danny of the future, right? When the 18-year-old Danny was there, I was like, I'm going to work really hard now so that my 30-year-old Danny self can live a better life. And now I thank my 18-year-old self, like, thanks, Danny, young Danny. Like, and a lot of people, they do what's right for today and what's right for right now and immediate gratification. And especially when my dad died, I woke up quite a bit, and I was like, if I keep doing this immediate gratification thing, this is where it ends up. And when everyone else was worried about being cool and getting a girlfriend and, going off and skipping class to, smoke pot in the, in the bushes, I was like, I have a future to live, and I care more about that than I do about this immediate gratification, because I know where it leads. And it's just a bit of my life story, but it's just that decision making that I'm very proud of, and my ability to do that consistently. So
that's a hell of an achievement. Everybody can see why I like you so much. Like, we have some similarities in our backgrounds, and for every time you think you have it bad, there's always somebody that has it worse. And so it's awesome to see you come through that, right? Like that's super cool. So if you could go back to young Danny and say, hey, young Danny, I thank you for all the things you did, the decisions you made. Is there anything you would have told him that you said, hey, this would make it even easier if you do this?
More and more every year in my life, I get more and more appreciative of the simplest things. I think, again, it comes back to my faith in God, but like I look at this world and I realize that we live in North America and that we already won the genetic lottery. And so this thing we call business is kind of a big game, and we treat it as if it's life or death sometimes. And we get really emotional about it as if it is, but the reality is you kind of already have it made. Even if you're only making a couple grand a month and you're barely getting by, you're still eating, sleeping, pooping, and breathing. And that's better than a lot of the people on earth that live, day-to-day lives can really say. And just to be appreciative of that. And, I always look at like life is filled with amazing, awesome opportunities. And it's also filled with a lot of tragedy. And sometimes we kind of tell ourselves in our brain that all we want is the awesomeness, and we want more awesomeness. And we really don't want any tragedy. Like that shouldn't happen. But I think it's the duality of those two things that helps us actually be us. And you need both. And so when tough stuff comes, like I kind of embrace it. Like the last thing I really went through that was rough was watching my mom pass away from cancer. And instead of being like, why God, I hate you, like I'm so upset, and go down to a deep despair, I got inspired. And I told my mom, like, I'm going to build a cool business that's going to change people's lives, and I'm going to do it in the right way. And I want God to be proud of what I'm doing, and I want you to be here for the ride afterwards. And we started BTA right after my mom died, actually. And there's stuff like that like I stick to, and I'm like, it's tragedy that really has helped me form who I am today. Not all the good stuff. All the good stuff's great, but it's just temporary, right? It's the hard stuff that sticks with you long term and becomes who you are. And you have a choice in how you want to pursue that. So I see that more and more every year, and just to be settled, to not be like, well, I didn't get enough of that. It's like, no, like I'm already blessed. I'm already, like, we live in Canada. We're fine. Like, we have nothing to worry about. And I can live a very just free, laid back life, that a very public life too. People can know anything really they want about me, and I have no secrets, and it allows me to just be me and not have to worry about the pressure that a lot of other people live under. So.
Yeah, I think that's a major struggle for a lot of people, is their projected self versus their true self, and what that is, right?
Totally.
I had a big problem with it when I was younger, that I tried to project that maybe I was greater than I was.
Yeah.
And I'm just a normal human being, just like anybody else. I got a little bit of skill in a particular area that tends to benefit others. Super cool, but it doesn't make me special. I'm no more special than anybody else on the planet, and anybody has the opportunity to do the things that we have done. It just takes a little bit of discipline and persistence to get there. One of my ways of looking at things, like this mantra, it was very similar to what you said your mantra was for the people in your business, but the joy and challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange. Like, that's something that's always been there for me. The more I get challenged, the more I get joy from it, even if that challenge is painful and a struggle, and really like something I don't want to go through. When we're all dealing with it right now with this COVID pandemic thing, everybody's got different levels of what that challenge looks like to them, and to find joy in that, that's a thing from God. That's a thing from God that says, hey, this is how you find joy in that, through our faith in what we do, and feeling that, hey, no matter what, things are going to be okay. And you're right, we did win this genetic lottery. I was born in America, man. Hot dang.
Yeah, man.
How lucky is that? I could have been born anywhere else, and I've traveled a lot of different places that I wouldn't want to be born in. And just being aware of that is so huge. All right, last question. We all only have so much time on this planet, right? All comes to an end. That's fact. On that day, there's going to be lots of people there celebrating Danny's life. How do you want them to remember you? What's the legacy?
I get a lot of joy out of people knowing that I was there for them, regardless of anything in their life. Like, I've got quite the motley crew of friends, people that have lived in the forest for months to years on end and hunted to live. People who are gangsters living on the streets, people who are amazing business people who have millions of dollars, people who just good old-fashioned family people too. Like, I've got such an eclectic group of friends, and I've never said to myself, all I want is that people that benefit me, and I'll surround myself with the most successful people on earth. Like, I'm like, you know what, I will be there for the people who actually give a shit and actually are down to earth human beings. And I just want people to, when I die, just be like, that son of a bitch, he never gave up. He was always true, and he always was there for me, and he never judged me, and he was just there to help and be a big part of my growth in my career and my life. And I've seen a lot of my friends look at what I've been doing at a young age and get inspired, and go from one of my friends who was a ski bum, just living in the mountains, living a good life, but just doing ski bum stuff, to getting a career, getting a trade. He's going to buy a house pretty quick here, and I'm so proud of him. And I'm just like, he's just like, dude, man, like, it's because I see people like you go and do it, and I know you can. Another one of my friends just got his engineering certificate, and he's a mining engineer now, and he was just going to be a painter for a lot of years, but he committed to doing more. And I don't know, I just want people to know that I was there for them, and I never judged them either way, and was there to support them in their growth and development. And I know that that's what I cared and needed a lot in my life. And especially back in the day, College Pro Painters, that company really supported the hell out of me when no one else would. So, yeah.
That's super cool. No, didn't judge anybody. Boy, that's a tough task. It's human behavior is to do so, right? And to compare ourselves and all that other stuff that goes along with that. You're the only other person I know that's ever said what I think you said. I'm not a believer in you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with most often. And I'm not about like trying to up my game in the people I surround myself with. I'm the same thing. I want to surround myself with the people that are genuine and true.
Yep.
That's who I want to surround myself with. And I want to be likewise to them. I find more value in that. I wasn't always that way, but
I think because I don't have a lot of family, like it's especially in British Columbia, so it's just me and my wife and my sister, and obviously our kids, but that's it. So I've had to create my own family. So my friends through my younger years definitely were a big part of what I would consider like brothers and sisters. And I always looked at my friend group, and it was never like, we have a really good time on the weekends and that's why we're friends. I was like, no, I can make you a better human being, and actually you can make me a better human being. And as long as we're committed to that, we should be friends. And if anything right now, like my friends give me a lot of perspective in life. Like they're just like, don't get too carried away with the money. Don't get too like, stop flying everywhere. Like be home with your kids. Like just chill the fuck out, Danny Kerr. Right?
You don't need that cool roller bag.
Yeah, like great roller bag, but like don't mean shit. And they ground me in a big way. And so does my wife. So does my sister. There's people in my life that keep me humble and keep me focused on what really matters. And we've all watched enough movies about, the guy that goes and makes millions of dollars and blows it on hookers and blow and loses himself and, loses everything as a result. Right. And I think that's a very true life experience that a lot of people experience when they see success or fame or money. And you really got to watch that, because that's not real. And what is real is the people around you that loved you the whole time. So I get a lot out of them too. And that's a big part of what I see in those relationships.
Yeah, there's an event coming up. I think it's the 20th of August. It's a call-a-thon for roofers in recovery. And through RoofCon, they're raising money for roofers that are in recovery. They've been through drug and alcohol addiction and things like that. And I've had this sabbatical planned for a month or more now that I'm going to be gone, and I am going to be gone. I'm not going to be able to be on this event. Nathan's going to step in for me. But what a amazing thing to see in our industry. I mean, you would have never seen this 10 years ago. Others taking care of others. To me, that gives me more joy in all of the time I've invested, because it's not me, that's somebody else seeing that this is the way our industry is becoming. And it's just super cool. And to anybody listening today, like, if you get a chance, August 20th, just go look it up, RoofCon or Roofers in Recovery, and you get a chance to donate to that call-a-thon, do so. Whether it's $5, $10, $100, whatever number, people do need help, and they do need a helping hand, everyone, belief in them. They don't need entitlement or enablement, but they do need assistance. And I think we can be that. And it's super cool to see you being that for your contractors. Hopefully we're doing likewise. Danny, let's keep raising the bar, man.
Yeah, buddy.
You get better, we'll get better, and we'll see where our goal isn't how big. Our goal is like how good. And that's kind of where we're focused right now. I'm going to make a big announcement today, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So big announcement for those that hung out and listened this whole entire time. I'm in the middle of writing a book. I've been in the middle of writing a book for 3.5 years. And I've got like almost a chapter done. So I'm taking a sabbatical, and I'm going to go write the 12 chapters of my book in 12 days and come back with a finished draft version for my people to take a look at. And so any of you that are watching this or seeing this or anything like that, if you want to keep up to date on the release date of our book and stuff like that, just drop your email in the comments down below, and we'll make sure that's out there. But this book isn't a sales book. It's not a marketing book. It's a business book, and it's a book about how we go through our process with contractors to help them succeed. And I don't know if anybody will buy it. I hope they will. I hope it's valuable, but I hope it's entertaining too. I don't want it to just be dry, but the title of the book is Work on It, Not in It. And it's about what we call our contractor's blueprint, this process and system, and some epiphanies that have come to us over this time of coaching. And Danny, if you don't mind, I would like to send that book to you and have you read through it, give me some feedback on it, and if you think it's any good, maybe give me a little blurb on it. I'd love to have that. Put you on the spot there, didn't I?
I can do that. I'm super dyslexic, so I will struggle, but I will read it. I read Randy Brothers' book. It was a fair enough read. He wrote it to a contractor, which is perfect because that's about, for me. My reading is, I would say, somewhat basic. But if you needed me to read through it, my friend, I'll take some time.
Well, I have to write this for contractors, so it should be good on that part of it. Matt Grassmeyer says he can't wait to get his signed copy. Who said I'm signing anything for you? No, I'm just kidding. Of course, Matt. You've sent me a book. I'll send you this one. I'm super excited about getting it done. It's been like a passion of mine, and I couldn't get there because I was on this rat race of coach all the time and couldn't do anything else. Got some good people in place. Capacity's increased, allowing me to go do this thing, create more opportunity for my team. And that's really, it seems like the goal for us visionaries is how can we create more opportunity for our teams. And it's cool to feel it finally, to see it actually happening. It's so cool. Danny, thanks for being on today.
Jim, thanks for having me.
I always enjoy our conversations. I always enjoy the depth of your conversation, your thought. I find it valuable and I find it engaging. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me. Hopefully everyone else got something out of it. And good luck with the book, my friend. You,
yeah.
Right. You're up in the bar. You're going to write a book, Jim. Come on.
Yeah, now you got something to do. You feel like you didn't have anything to do. Now you got something to do.
That's good.
Yeah, man. It's I'm raised the bar. Time for you to write yours.
Sweet, buddy. Okay.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
See you guys. No, bye.